He was not the fastest, not the smartest, not the strongest. In fact, for most of his life, people looked at him and saw nothing special. Teachers overlooked him, coaches ignored him, even friends doubted him. He was the kind of person others thought would never go far, and maybe, if he had believed them, that would have been true. But deep inside, he carried something invisible. Not talent, not luck, not privilege, but a fire. A stubborn, unshakable fire that whispered to him every single day, "Keep going." As a child, he was often the last to be chosen, the first to be forgotten. But instead of being crushed, he used it as fuel. When others slept, he practiced. When others celebrated, he trained. He worked quietly, relentlessly, with no applause, no recognition, no reward. And little by little, something began to change. His steps grew faster, his mind sharper, his body stronger. What once looked like weakness was slowly becoming strength. The road, however, was not smooth. Every small victory was followed by a greater challenge. Just when he thought he was moving forward, life pushed him back. He failed exams, he lost competitions, he missed opportunities. Each time, he felt the sting of defeat, the humiliation of being told he was not enough. And each time, he asked himself if it was worth it. But then the fire inside him would answer, yes, because greatness never comes without pain, and success never comes without scars. Years passed. He gave up comforts others enjoyed. While his friends laughed and relaxed, he stayed awake, working, building, learning. The sacrifices cut deep. He missed moments with family, celebrations with friends, simple joys of youth. But every sacrifice was a brick in the foundation of the man he was becoming. Then came the day that would change everything. An opportunity arrived, one that seemed impossible, too big for someone like him. Everyone told him not to try, that he would fail, that he would embarrass himself. But instead of listening, he remembered all the nights he had suffered, all the years he had trained. And he told himself, "This is my moment." So he stepped forward, trembling but determined, and gave everything he had. What followed was transformation. The boy who had been ignored became the man people could not ignore. The one they said was weak became the one they called unstoppable. He won not because he was destined, but because he was willing. He achieved not because he was chosen, but because he refused to quit. And when success finally arrived, people said he was lucky. But he knew the truth. Luck did not carry him through endless nights of exhaustion. Luck did not hold him together when he was broken and alone. Luck did not lift him up after every fall. What carried him was persistence, resilience, the refusal to surrender. His life became a reminder that you do not need to be born great to become great. You do not need to be the strongest, the fastest, the smartest. All you need is the courage to keep going when everyone else stops. All you need is the fire to rise every time you fall. Because in the end, success does not belong to the most talented. It belongs to the most relentless. So if the world tells you that you are nothing, remember his story. Remember that even the ordinary can become extraordinary if they refuse to give up. Remember that no matter how small you feel, no matter how impossible the dream looks, if you keep walking, one day you will arrive. And when you do, the same world that once doubted you will call you an inspiration. He was the kind of man nobody noticed. He lived in a small town, worked in small jobs, and carried dreams so big that people laughed whenever he spoke of them. To everyone around him, he was ordinary, forgettable, replaceable. But to himself, he was something more. Deep inside, he carried a vision of a life greater than the one he had been given, and though no one else could see it, he refused to let it die. His days were long and exhausting. He worked jobs that barely paid enough to survive, coming home with tired hands and an empty wallet. At night, when the world slept, he sat alone with his thoughts, asking himself why he was born into this struggle. But instead of drowning in self-pity, he used those questions as fuel. He told himself that he would not die in the same place he was born. He would not be defined by poverty or obscurity. He would fight for more. At first, he had nothing. No money, no connections, no recognition. All he had was determination. He read books he borrowed, studied skills no one taught him, and practiced until his body ached. While others wasted time, he invested it. While others sought comfort, he embraced discomfort. His journey was lonely, his sacrifices invisible, but he kept going. And yet, life tested him at every turn. Just when he thought he was making progress, something would knock him back down. He lost opportunities. He faced rejection after rejection. Sometimes he wondered if the world was right, if maybe he really was destined to remain nothing. But each time those thoughts came, he remembered the vision inside him. He remembered that greatness is not about never falling, but about rising one more time than you fall. Years went by. Slowly, his work began to bear fruit. The man who once had nothing started to build something of his own. The people who once mocked him began to watch in silence. His failures had become lessons, his scars had become strength, and his persistence had turned into power. He was no longer the man no one noticed. He was becoming the man no one could ignore. His first true breakthrough was small. It wasn't the grand victory he dreamed of, but it was enough to prove that his effort had not been wasted. That small win gave him confidence, and with confidence came momentum. One achievement led to another, one opportunity opened the door to the next. What once felt impossible now began to feel inevitable. And when success finally came, it came with force. The same people who had laughed at him now asked him for advice. The same world that had ignored him now celebrated him. But he never forgot where he started. He never forgot the hunger, the loneliness, the nights of doubt. Those memories became his anchor, keeping him humble and reminding him of the truth. Success is built on struggle, and every scar tells a story of strength. His life became a lesson for anyone who felt unseen, a reminder that your current situation does not define your future, that no matter how ordinary you look today, extraordinary lives inside you if you refuse to quit. He proved that greatness does not come to those who wait for luck, but to those who keep going when there is no luck at all. So if you feel invisible, remember his story. If you feel ordinary, remember his fight. Because one day, if you refuse to give up, the world will have no choice but to see you. And when that day comes, your story will inspire others the way his now inspires you. He was a young man who carried silence like a shield. He did not talk much about his dreams because every time he did, people laughed. They told him he was foolish, that life was about survival, not ambition. But inside his quiet heart, he carried a storm. He wanted more than survival. He wanted to live a life that meant something, a life that would prove that even the most underestimated person could rise. His childhood was filled with reminders of what he lacked. He did not have the best education, he did not have resources, and he certainly did not have support. But what he did have was an unshakable determination to fight for his place in the world. He promised himself that no matter how many times life knocked him down, he would always get back up. He started small. While others looked for shortcuts, he focused on discipline. While others chased comfort, he chose sacrifice. He worked odd jobs by day, studied by night, and trained his mind to endure hardship. He failed often. He was rejected more times than he could count. Every door seemed to close. Every opportunity seemed out of reach. But instead of giving up, he told himself that rejection was not an end, but a lesson. Each no brought him closer to the yes he was waiting for. There were nights when hunger gnawed at him, nights when loneliness pressed heavy on his chest. He cried in silence, never letting the world see his weakness. But even in those moments, he never abandoned his vision. He knew that pain was temporary, but quitting would make it permanent. And so, he endured. Years passed. His sacrifices began to transform him. The boy who had once been weak and unnoticed had grown into a man of resilience. His body was stronger, his mind sharper, his will unbreakable. People who had ignored him now began to take notice. Still, success did not arrive overnight. It came slowly, like dawn after the longest night, but it came. His first big break was something small to others, but to him it was everything. It proved that his years of struggle had not been wasted, that one chance turned into another. Each victory built upon the last, and before long he was standing in places he had once only dreamed of, doing things he had once thought impossible. And when the world finally asked him how he had done it, he didn't talk about luck or talent. He said it was persistence. It was the courage to continue when there was no reason to. It was the refusal to let failure define him. He told them that greatness is not about never falling, but about rising every single time you do. His story became a reminder to everyone who felt invisible. A reminder that your circumstances do not determine your destiny. That you don't need permission to chase your dream. That even when the world doubts you, you can choose to believe in yourself. And so his life left behind a lesson carved in truth. That ordinary people become extraordinary not because they are born special, but because they choose not to quit. And anyone who dares to keep moving, even through darkness, even through pain, will one day rise so high that the world cannot ignore them. He grew up in a world that constantly reminded him of what he was not. He was not rich, not talented, not born into privilege. People looked at him and expected very little. They said he would follow the same path as everyone else, live the same small life, and die without leaving a mark. But while the world saw nothing, he quietly nurtured a dream so big that it scared even him. A dream to rise above the life he had been given, to build something greater than his circumstances, and to prove that destiny is not decided by birth, but by choice. From an early age, he understood pain. He knew the taste of hunger, the sting of failure, the weight of rejection. Every attempt he made seemed to collapse before it began. He was ridiculed for trying, laughed at for dreaming. And yet, every insult became fuel. He whispered to himself in the silence of the night that one day he would turn all that laughter into applause. He worked tirelessly, not in the spotlight, not in front of an audience, but in the unseen hours when no one was watching. While others rested, he studied. While others gave up, he tried again. He sacrificed comfort, he sacrificed ease, he sacrificed moments of joy. And though his efforts brought little reward in the beginning, they were shaping him into someone new. Slowly, failure stopped being his enemy and became his teacher. Each setback carved resilience into his spirit. Each rejection strengthened his resolve. There were countless nights when quitting seemed easier, nights when his heart felt heavy and his body broken. But in those moments, he remembered why he started. He remembered the life he wanted to escape, the promise he had made to himself, and the vision of the man he wanted to become. That vision became his anchor, holding him steady when the storms of doubt threatened to pull him under. Years passed. The boy who was underestimated became a man forged in struggle. His hands carried scars, his face carried lines of exhaustion, but his eyes carried fire. He no longer chased recognition. He no longer needed validation. He worked only for the mission he had set for himself, and step by step, it began to pay off. His first real opportunity came quietly, almost unnoticed. It was small, fragile, easily missed. But he grabbed it with both hands and poured everything he had into it. What others dismissed as nothing, he treated as everything. And slowly, from that small chance, his world began to shift. Success did not come like an explosion. It came like a sunrise, inch by inch, steady and unstoppable. Before long, the same people who had doubted him now spoke his name with respect. The laughter turned into admiration, the doubt into belief. But he never forgot the years of pain that had built him. He never forgot the hunger, the loneliness, the rejection, because he knew that those struggles were not curses, they were the very foundation of his strength. When asked how he had done it, he did not speak of luck or gifts. He spoke of persistence, of sacrifice, of refusing to give up when every reason to quit was staring him in the face. He said that greatness is not about being chosen, it is about choosing yourself. It is about showing up again and again, even when the world has turned its back on you. His story is not just his own. It belongs to anyone who has been told they are not enough. It belongs to anyone who has been overlooked, underestimated, forgotten. It is proof that even the smallest voice can echo across the world if it refuses to be silenced. It is proof that even the most ordinary life can become extraordinary when driven by unrelenting determination. And so his legacy is this: no matter where you begin, no matter how impossible the path looks, if you refuse to quit, you will rise. You will outlast doubt, you will outlast failure, you will outlast fear. And one day, when the world finally sees you, they will call you unstoppable.